happy to introduce Paul Walker to you. Uh, Paul came from England and ended up in an apple orchard. His father bought one, and I think that's kind of where he got in touch with nature, and some of the poetry got its early foundations is in that apple orchard. And as Paul went on to become successful, he became a coach to CEOs of Fortune, 500 companies, and he coached CEOs at Connextent, New York Life, Teradata, and other ones. And he always found a way to build healthy teams and to make these high-minded CEOs vulnerable, which made them more accessible and connectable. And Paul was always really good at that. And I've been to the Genius Stone Retreat Center a number of times with he and Bonnie. It's been wonderful as going there. And Paul has one of his bylines is in Venture Future, and he's written books and has a lot of studies on it. But I just have to say, Paul has one of the biggest hearts of anybody I have ever met. And I have to also include Bonnie in this. Someone once said, behind every successful man, there's a woman rolling her eyes. Well, not in that case. Uh, behind his Paul's success, Bonnie has been a real team member. I've just marveled at how they support, love, and care for each other. And so, Bonnie is a part of this too. And Paul's poetry is stunning. He has a way of speaking about things that really, really touch the heart. So, Paul, I'm happy to have you as a friend. Glad to know you for all these years and all the things that we've been through together and as teams. So, with that, I give you Paul Walker.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's a lovely introduction. Give me a minute here. So I'm going to read a poem and then ask for a lot of participation. The poem's called After Letting Go, and it's about letting go and my own personal experience, and it's in my book, It Waits for You, and it waits for you everywhere. Moments of beauty, moments of wisdom. We just don't always notice. And so in my writing, I try to be the finger pointing at the moon, not the moon, but the finger pointing at the moon. So you can learn to let go, if you will. And so here's what I found. So the context of this is went on a vision quest, a North American Indian vision quest with some friends who facilitated Bonnie and I, and Bonnie went her way and I went my way. So it's an individual thing. And what you do is meditate to the four directions and see what comes up. This is the North American Indian tradition. The four directions are full of wisdom, and each has its own wisdom. So it was quite an experience, and slept overnight in the desert. Coyotes ran by, didn't even notice me lying there in the sleeping bag. But it was in Joshua Tree in the desert. And that in itself is a beautiful location, to spend time quietly. Lots of meditation. So while I was there, I didn't write the poem while I was there, but this is the experience I had while I was in the desert. It's called After Letting Go. I heard it rushing down from the north as it took out its final toll on those who would hold on. I knew it would come like the first gale of winter that ends the tree's hope of holding on to the leaves of summer. Like gale force winds that draw out the dust and garbage from the crevices, some strange force pulls my old, dead, shamed creations from deep inside. It shocks my proud heart once more. And with a stiff, princely smile, I force the remembrance deep within and stand frozen in a crooked pose, like a windswept tree dying with its roots in the rocks, hanging on the edge of a cliff. Like the winds who always return, some force, a vow, once released, lives my past from its hiding places like the dead leaves just before the snow turns them around and around to haunt me. Unlike the tree, who knows it cannot stop the movement that turns the stars or the loss of its dead leaves to feed the soil. I desperately shelter the broken parts which have painted hardness across my face through the summer and fall of my life. I hold on to them even though they steal my aliveness like the hard rocks. But now a sudden surge of pain throws me to the ground, demanding release. I fill my lungs with air and cry and wail out my sorrow into the endless sky, like the wolf who's lost his mate howls across the moonlit valley, then sits so still, his eyes shining as he watches the light fill the valley with color after letting go. So the book this is called It Waits for You. I think I said that. And what I found is I just have to let go of all the things I think are important, I thought were important. And there it is, the beautiful desert, full of light, full of life. And so I've learned to, let go. Right now, I'm letting go of being an international leadership consultant, which I can't do anymore. Letting go of that life of flying to London and New York and Chicago and Dallas to help teams of leaders be even more effective. I'm letting go of a lot of things. And as I do, I see more and more beauty in life. It's uh, it's strange. I mean, you wouldn't think that letting go is the key to everything else, but all those views I had of myself and just ha has to go. So it's not easy for me or not easy for anyone to let go. Somehow you feel your security is wrapped up in everything you hold on to, when the truth is, it's just the opposite. Your security is impeded by everything we hold on to. One of my favorite quotes from John O'Donohue is, "I would love to live like a river flows, surprised by its own unfolding." And that's my goal, just to let go and be surprised by my own unfolding. So what I like to do as part of this process is, I'm sure we've all had these experiences of letting go and discovering. So I'd like people, if you would, to share things you've let go of and the joy and wonder that appeared after letting go. So it's going to need a lot. We're going to need a lot of sharing to make this thing work. So I've shared what I've been letting go of right now. And, you know, what are you letting go of? Or what would you like to let go of if you haven't already done so? So, Diana.
Well, it's hard for me to talk because I'm so moved by and touched. And I imagine a lot of us are feeling that way, Paul. I think we don't have much choice as we age. It's an opportunity every day, isn't it, to let go? As most of you know, I guess a year ago in January, I put my place on the market in Palm Springs. Just knowing that had to happen, I knew that wasn't home for me, that home was in here. And I needed to be really, really simplified. And it wasn't easy. And Robin is facing the same thing, letting go of all of our stuff. And it's such a powerful process. And I just want to say thank you, because that poem was just profoundly touching and meaningful to me, and I'm sure to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Grace, Sam.
Yeah, it's actually Sam.
Okay.
When I retired about 10 years ago, it wasn't so difficult because I had another career that I'd been dreaming about for 20 or 30 years. That is writing a memoir and then writing a book on the spiritual nature of the universe. So that was easy to let go of the job, because I already had another job lined up, and still I'm involved in that. But what I found is that over the last 10 years or so, I've been frequently saying to myself and to other people in Mary Grace, when something happens, I found myself saying, "It is what it is," kind of an acceptance. And then, of course, the line in the Serenity Prayer, to accept the things I cannot change.
Mhm.
These are relatively small things, but it's helpful for me to have no expectations. And the final thing I would say is, I heard someone recently say, expect nothing, accept everything. And these are, as I say, it's not like the death of a spouse. It's just an attitude that I'm gradually developing toward life. And I do find myself experiencing much more joy in seeing animals and interacting with them and watching them animals on TV, and watching on the dodo, watching babies and animals interact, or a dog chasing a rooster around a yard and a rooster chasing the dog. I mean, these give me great joy, and I've let go enough and given up so much of my compulsiveness that I have time to enjoy such things. So, well, thank you for the poem, and yeah, what you said about your own life. Thank you.
Thank you. Levita, then Sam.
Okay, I'm on my cell phone, so it's a different process for me this morning. Paul, as always, thank you, thank you, thank you. And right now I'm feeling a little sad. It's like I'm in Ventura and your book is back in my apartment, and I can't go back and savor the lines. But what I noticed as you were reading, and this is one of my favorite ones of yours, is that in letting go, just right at the tail end of the poem, if you can go back to like the last 2 or 3 sentences, I'm not sure where it is, but I'll say it and you'll find it. As you're describing letting go, you're letting go of the tangible and acknowledging and savoring the intangible. In your poem, you're describing that. It's like you let go and the colors flooded in of that which was already there, but perhaps we weren't able to receive it and experience it the way that when I let go of the tangibles, the intangibles are waiting there. It's right now house sitting for my granddaughter. I have this big, burly, furry dog that barks in the night and scares the bejesus out of me because I'm in a new environment. And then there's 2 cats that like to get all over stuff and knock things down, as cats do. And it's springtime. She has all these baby plants that she's growing. So I have a green nursery that I'm been left in charge of. And it's like there's so much richness that when I can let go of the tangibles or the inconvenience and the messiness that life can bring, something else is waiting right there and living in the mystery of that. And I love Diane's book of Expect Magic. That's what it comes down to, is noticing the grace and elegance of a hummingbird, or suddenly getting a fragrance that I smell and I go, all I can say is thank you, beloved, because this fragrance is there and it brings something not quite there, but there at the same time. So I love your poetry, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing this morning once again.
Paul, unmute yourself. You did okay.
Okay, Sam?
Samuel.
Samuel. You have to unmute.
Okay, there we go. Paul, thank you for bringing up this topic. It reminds me of a major choice I had to make in life. I was a teacher with LA Unified for 22 years, and I had made it up to the top of the salary scale, which was $80,000 a year. And I had a cushy job. It was the ideal job. I was an independent study teacher's modified homeschooling one-on-one. I had my own office. I was allowed to paint it or do with it what I painted it periwinkle. I had spiritual pictures. I created a wonderful environment for the middle school kids to come in once a week with their parents. And I was able to impact them and re-engage them in the educational process. So it was well-paying. I had a good environment. There was no one standing over me most of the time, and I was having success at the job. But that was my last 9 years in the education field. And I was tired of sitting on my ass. I felt like I needed a change. But it was very scary because I was in a real cushy situation that I had created for myself. And I thought, other people are making money on the internet. I'm no dummy. I can do that too. So I took a leap of faith and it wasn't that much of a leap of faith. I got a $30,000 golden handshake. But I chose to retire early, and I started 2 businesses with my sacred geometry pendants and my violet glass bottles. And that gave me freedom to be my own independent entrepreneur. And that was important because I always felt like they were watching over me, that they wanted me to teach all the subjects to all the students. I had about 30 students, and I only had a half an hour to an hour with each student a week. And that was impossible. So I chose to focus on where I could engage them in the educational process to get them re-involved in wanting to learn. And in that sense, I was successful. But I always felt they were watching me and I wasn't doing my job the way they wanted me to. So I took a leap of faith and I became my own person. And that was 16 years ago. And I'm glad I took that. It was scary. I'm glad I took that step. And it's been good.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Linda.
Well, I wear Skechers all the time. I don't know. I think that's what my feet want. And I wear jeans and vests, and I'm just me. I'm just me. So maybe all that stuff is going away.
Thank you. Bonnie Janowski, and then Michelle.
For me, it's letting go. The more I let go, the more I let in. It's just amazing. I love what you said, something to the effect of expect, nothing, but anticipate everything. I'm not saying quite right. But that has been making such a difference in my life. I mean, career-wise, everything. I mean, our MCI and MCLA families, and it's just like letting go and revealing myself. At first was terrifying, but it's good. Let's in the good as well. So really appreciate what you're sharing, Paul. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Michelle.
First of all, Paul, your poem deeply touched me, as it always does, because you speak from such a deep place within yourself. And what came up for me when I was listening to it was I just came back from speaking to retreat leaders at 2 world-class retreat centers on storytelling and the power of the story that we don't want to tell. And I participated in a breathwork session. I'd done that before, but nothing like this, with the music and with the guidance. And within 3 minutes of going into this process, I started sobbing. I could feel hidden, lost, denied, covered over feelings and memories that were literally pulsing their way through my veins and seeking expression through my mouth. My eyes were closed, and I noticed that when I really wanted to let go and make noise, there was a part of me that was holding that back. But the others who were joined me in this began to vocalize what was going on with them. And it gave me permission to let go too. And when I released, Paul, I don't know what all that was, except to say that I remembered hearing a voice say, "If not now, Michelle, when?" And so I allowed myself to release things that I couldn't even name, and some of which I did. And I got to have like snot coming out of my nose and tears streaming and looking pretty crappy. And it didn't matter, because when we truly let go, none of that matters, because what we're seeking to do is to allow our souls to be seen.
And I remembered afterward looking at myself in the mirror and feeling like I was seeing myself from a different place. Because with the support of all of those who accompanied this process, allowed myself the gift of letting go that which I did not know, but that which my soul was asking of me to reveal. And that is why your poem, your writing, your person, your spirit, your soul has touched me so deeply today. So I honor you and honor all of you in this space that we can experience these things together. If not now, when?
Paul, unmute yourself. The only reason I mute you is because to keep the camera on the person who's speaking. Otherwise, it switches around. Sorry.
It's all right, Michael.
Yeah, good morning, and congratulations. The poem was quite extraordinary because having worked with you and seen you in your other life and what just what you achieved, and now that you're letting go in that way is quite extraordinary. But it's, letting go is a phrase that has many possible meanings, I think. It's moving from one level of energy to a new level of energy. And so you're moving to a new spiritual commitment, which is in its way a whole new dimension of energy, I suppose. What you said touched me in many ways, but in part because I haven't really crossed that line yet. I'm still very much in my life and in my career, because in some ways, even though I have not been actively, at least recently had not been actively pursuing it, it was finding me. I have so much experience, particularly doing books and working on projects like this. I found people were calling me, or that people were referring me to do it. And I woke up one day and realized I had 4 active projects in the table. And I was back in it, and really back in it in a major way. And I found it enormously satisfying to be dealing with this. And so what I found satisfying, I suppose, was just being that, sharing experience and helping other people realize their mission and their voice was enormously satisfying. And that's what I end up doing. And that's what is really enriching right now. And I'm really very happy to be able to do that. And of course, now with the big family we have now and all those kids getting, the next big shift is all 4 of those kids are going to be teenagers in a couple of years. And that's going to be interesting. I'll tell you, I can see already. Just this year alone is sort of giving us a preview. And so that's going to be a project in and of itself. So life is blessed, and I am privileged to live it. And I'm just so, it is so amazing to hear your words this morning and how you have found a wonderful new direction. And congratulations to you.
Thank you, Michael. Martha.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
I think Michael's reading from Joseph Campbell just dovetailed so nicely with what you brought up about things having to be broken before new growth can come forward. And I remember when I was younger, I would pray and pray and pray really hard for something, but I would notice that it was when I gave it up that I would start to see it sort of materialize. And I like that you're just making plain that sort of vacuum that there has to be a vacuum so there's space for something new to come our way.
Thank you. Mary Grace.
You know, I'm not experiencing that letting go now so much in my life, but I look back on several different, at the time, were dark nights of the soul. And I remember, as devastating as it seems, at one point, my husband died, my nephew died, my trainer, who was my son's mentor, died. My son just, I had to send him to a residential program out of state. So I went from a full life full of people and loved ones to being isolated and by myself. Felt like I was in free fall. And it was, while it was devastating at the time, I also always knew, I just knew that this was so I could have my new life. And I had to let go of everything. I had to stop getting up and doing. I was a real doing person. And I had to just stop the doing and just stop, because I didn't know how to live my life anymore, because it didn't work anymore. And it took a while, but when I stopped, gradually my new life did emerge, not on my timetable. Took longer than I would have liked, but it did evolve to a life I couldn't ever have dreamt of. So I really appreciated the topic today and your poem, because it's just personally to me is true. It's just true. And it's a wonderful, wonderful reminder. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mary Grace. Hadia? You have to unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul, for your beautiful poem and this beautiful topic. I appreciate your writing, magical. So for me, letting go, I've been learning to let go since I was young. When I was 30, I went to USM, University of Santa Monica, and Mary Hulnick said to me, you have to let go of what you got so you can get what you want. And I heard her, and it was so painful because I went to school so I can keep what I had. And it was just at 30, now I look back on it, when I was 30, I thought I was old, as most of us think when we're young, we're old. And now I look back on it, I'm like, wow, it was so young and crushed at the same time. And I worked on that. I worked and I did let go of what I had. And I didn't get what I wanted, which was a marriage, a loving marriage, but I got what I really, really wanted, which is peace of mind and serenity in my life, in my home, and sacredness. And that's what I've always wanted in my life. And there's been a lot of ebb and flows in my life, ups and downs, a lot of physical pain, a lot of breakups. And it usually comes down to accepting. So letting go is also for me about acceptance, accepting my essence and my nature. And my nature is about having peace and serenity and sacredness. So I appreciate this topic and to remember, because right now I'm being challenged health-wise again. And I mostly sleep a lot because my body I just feel exhausted and it gives out, and I need to surrender to that and appreciate when I do go to sleep. It gives me peace. It gives me a break from being in pain and being in exhaustion. So thank you and love you.
Thank you, Hadia. Lori.
One of I see that one of the themes for me is that um, it's letting go when somebody is no longer able to be in physical form, whether it's an animal or a person. This case with Laughing Eagle, who I was married to, having the love in in my heart to allow him and participate in the transition of his physical body and supporting that, to put myself in that position to do that, whether it was that or with my grandmother, with Kitty Rose, who I knew it was her time, and to have in my heart that love in such a way where I knew it's time to let it go and take another form. And trusting my inner compass of hearing on a soul level that things do change, but it's changing in a different form, changing in a different form on a physical level, to another form where is maybe one cannot see. However, being gifted the opportunity, whether it's through feathers, doves perching on my deck, things like that, of showing that there's more than meets the eye. And struggling with that as a human being, to be with that process on a human level, but on a soul level, knowing that that is the case. And as a result, moving, allowing more space of a new place, having this amazing kitty that's sitting right next to me called Precious, that is so supportive, and just allowing the newness of good things to come forth. So I'm still struggling with, at times, my intuition picking things up and knowing it, but seeing major signs at the same time, knowing on a heart level that love transcends everything is my belief. And also just allowing people, animals, the opportunity to transcend, so that we don't have to hold them back, but we can allow them to be with their process. So that's my opportunity, which is one of the things I've been being with. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lori. Robin.
I really want to acknowledge Michelle and her beautiful, vulnerable sharing. And for me, it reminded me how linked my tears and my body reactions are to the letting go experience, and the value of the sobbing. And it feels like that's how we embody letting go in a way. You know, there's there's something about this vehicle that is 3D and tangible, that has to catch up when something shifts in the intangible, invisible world. Anyway, there's something deeply, it's hard to articulate, but I was really feeling, because I've had a lot of waves of these sobbing experiences coming forward the last 2 or 3 weeks, and sometimes they surprise me. But when you talked about it, I could see reflected in you, Michelle, the value, even more. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Robin. This group reminds me of a Leonard Cohen song, performed beautifully by Judy Collins. And the lyric that captures my imagination is, all the sisters of mercy, they are not departed or gone. They were waiting for me when I thought that I just couldn't go on. So if your life is a leaf that the seasons tear off and condemn, they will bind you with love that is graceful and green as a stem. Oh, I'd add sisters and brothers of mercy for this group. So it is so wonderful to have people in your life who can see you and, show you who you are, or at least who they see you as. So, and having a group like this is just such a precious gift for me. And okay, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's just, there's something about the poetry, your poetry, definitely, that goes deep. It's quiet, still waters running deep, is what I think of. And you really touch these universal emotions and experiences. Your other poems too. I mean, we could literally take one of yours every week and go through it. But I just a moment of appreciation for one that you've read us before, Gravedigger, and it just I don't know. It always gets me. It always gets me. The living and those who've passed on, and the meaning that we draw from them and that we impart to ourselves. And I played that recording of you reading that at Homeboys one week. And these are tough people who live tough lives. But there were tears, mine included. So, just speaking to your ability to touch what is universal and deep within us. So, thank you for that.
We are creatures that in an obstinate way, we want to stick with our stuff. We want to stick with the status quo, and we don't want anything to change. But life has a joke on us. Everything changes. So in this obstinate resistance, we suffer so much. And it's just in the letting go and letting things flow like the river, as you mentioned. That's where the wisdom is. And that's where we stop suffering. And this acceptance is just, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's extremely difficult. But it's quite a joke of life, to tell you the truth. But that's it. And Paul, I have to say, I see you and I feel you, because your words make me feel what you feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Paul. This was just wonderful, deep, meaningful morning. Your beautiful poem and the topic. Thank you so much.